Hello, Scrappy Peeps. I am here with a process video for a layout I'm about to make for Coco Daisy using the January Noted kit. And I thought it was just perfect for my older daughter, Claire, 16, almost 17. And she loves succulents, she loves pastels. And I wanted to document a little bit about her journey this year as a 16-year-old. I am scrapping these photos that I printed on my Instax printer, which I absolutely adore, the cute little Instax. And I wanted to ask you guys if you want to see how that works, how the printer is if you don't have one, how the app interface and all that, my process to try to get the best photos on the Instax, because one of the worries is that you get it wrong the first time, and these are kind of pricey, the refill packs. So like you see here with this one, this was my first printout and I wasn't happy with it, so I actually did reprint it. Now, I'm not too worried about the pricing because I don't use these too often. To me, it's kind of like a special case when I want something extra fun. And then I give the extras to my kids anyway. So I'll give this to my daughter or maybe to the younger sister who just likes to put up photos of all of us. So I'm not worried about that too much, but I do have a few tips and tricks, and let me know if you're interested in that. That's just my aside. All right, so I've pulled out a few things that I think will go well with what I want to say. I do have my journaling here roughly, and I really want to try to work in one of these two clear pockets, which I've never done before, not a clear pocket. But I am going to start with a white background, probably do a little mixed media, and layer up and take it from there. I want to do like a vertical design. So I'm going to probably speed it up and get to it. The first thing I do is decide on the placement of the photos, and I do want to have this slightly off-centered because I'm going to have journaling on the right. And I briefly considered using one of those journal cards slipped into the pocket, but I really loved the idea of the photos bursting up out of the pocket. This tag would have been perfect, except for two things. One, I really loved the camera of the clear pocket, and I didn't want to have two competing with each other. And two, it was a really big tag in comparison to the photo. So I'm going to save that for a bigger photo. I start by tearing off a little piece of the paper that has the greenery. My daughter, I mentioned, loves plants and succulents. And I want to have just like a sliver of it coming off from one side, and then some slivers of this other paper that's the mixed media paper as well. I could have used that mixed media paper in a bigger swath, sort of, instead of doing my own mixed media, but I felt it was just a little too busy and I wanted some popping out of the edges and somewhat blending into the mixed media I'm going to do in the background. And I did go through a few of the die cuts just to start placing some things because I need to know where the mixed media is going to pop out behind everything. Before I went any further, I wanted to do my title. So it's going to be Rocking It at 16, and that was why I wanted to do a vertical design. I thought it'd be really fun to have a vertical title and use a bunch of the different alphas from the different kit. Decided to do Rocking and It in the two different colors, but they're the same size of the alphas. And I liked that going there, and then the at is a little smaller, and then 16 with the other one that comes from the classified kit for the memory keeping edition. Time for some mixed media. I did off camera test a little bit, and I want to point out two new to me products that I got about 2 months ago, been game changers. This watercolor paint palette that you see me using, it's about 10 by 5 closed, and then you can open it up so you can see the little wells and then the flat surfaces, both the smaller ones and the bigger one on the other side, the lid. And then that one pops up and there's another complete surface. It's amazing. I can just use so many different surfaces, do my testing, do my project, leave it and let it dry, and I can reuse those colors. And then if I'm lazy, I just move on to the next side and the next side and the next side, you know? So it's great. I did clean it off before this project because I used it multiple times. And then the brush washer above, that blue thing, it has basically three compartments for water. So you can have three separate clean water, or depending on how much you use it, each one's a little bit dirtier than the other. For instance, like you can see on the bottom, the pink, but the other sides are clean water. And it has plenty of holders for the brush. You'll see it better later. Game changers. I will have links to both of those in the description. As for the colors, you see me doing little splotches of colors. The pink is a combination of the Tim Holtz Distress Oxide in Abandoned Coral and the Pink Fresh Studio Bubblegum, the liquid watercolors. There's two shades of blue. One of them is the Tim Holtz Distress Oxide in Faded Jeans. That's the one that looks muted. And the Distress Oxide spray in Mermaid Lagoon. So these are the sprays. I use them like liquid watercolors. The last one is the purple. That's the Distress Oxide in Wilted Violet. Some splatters were darker than I wanted. I was going to use a paper towel roll to dab at it, roll it across it, and I couldn't find my roll. So I'm using a baby wipe, and look at this. I wanted to show you guys that you can erase away some of the mixed media if it's still wet and it's fairly light with a baby wipe. It works great. Time to start building up my layers. Putting a little bit of adhesive, my favorite, the Kikuyo Dot Liner Long. Again, most things I will have links to down below, either shopping for the supplies at Cocoa Daisy or links to a lot of my tools and like the adhesive and stuff. And now I did let it dry naturally. I will say that I prefer doing that. You will see here I use my heat gun in a little bit, but normally if you let things dry naturally, you get less warping. So I like how the title is, but there was a little gap there. So I pulled up the clear pocket and put a little bit more mixed media. You can see here I splattered a whole bunch. That was like, oops, but look, I'm erasing it with the baby wipe. And I pulled out the heat gun, but it was warping the plastic the a clear pocket, and I was like, oh no. So I quickly tried to fix that, and you can't tell that it got warped, and it was still a little bit wet. I figured it'll just evaporate on its own. And now I get to audition lots of little bits, which is so fun. Someone told me they never heard it referred to as audition, but that's how I feel the process is. I started with the die cuts, and there were a lot of them that were simply too big for the space, like those glasses. I wanted some. It felt too big. I'm noticing that I put that round sticker with the clip up above, and I actually really like it there. I think I meant to put it back, and I forgot as I went along with the process. It's funny how you discover those things sometimes when you're doing the voiceovers. I turned to rub-ons, which I was hoping to use because rub-ons are a lot of fun. They're a lot more fun than they used to be for me. And I think what makes it fun for me is using them on mixed media. I just feel like they blend in a little bit better than just slapping them on any piece of paper without mixed media. I cut the pieces out of the rub-on sheets and put them on a piece of wax paper. You can see this collection of them at the top left of the screen. And I'm actually not going to use all the ones I cut, but most of them. The succulent was really nice because it's vertical, filled in that blank space right there, and it helped balance out the paper that has some greenery. Found the little glasses that work perfectly for me. I tried to make this pin work, but it was like super duper bright. I could have gone back and cut out one of the other pins, but I ended up just not using a pin on the layout. And I find that rub-ons are actually really easy to use. You just buff the heck out of them with your popsicle stick. And, if you lift them up, there's still some on the backing sheet. You just put it back down where it was and keep buffing and keep buffing. That's all you have to do. I split the hearts into 3, and I really love the little detail they add. There are a few other hearts, but I really like these little ones, and they have the outlines. That spot at the top, again, I got a blank space, and so I brought in more pink. And then now I'm transferring my journaling. I did some lines with the ruler, started off with doing it in pencil. I find that really helps, although I tend to write over it a little differently, and I think I cut away from here, but there's a spot where I actually added another sentence, but that's okay. It's not too hard to keep going once you write it out in pencil. So actually I kind of write it out 3 times, a draft, and then in pencil, and then in pen, and that really works well for me. And I decided it would look better with lines filled in, so I went back and did the lines with pen. Brought in some splatters, just a little tiny bit over in the journaling to connect the journaling area to the rest of the layout, bring in a little bit, tiny bit of color. I let the splatters soak in for a minute or so as I fixed the 16. The spacing was a bit more crammed than the rest of the title, and I wanted it to be more consistent. Now, after I put that down, I came back with the baby wipe and dabbed at the darker spots until they were lighter. I saved one rub-on, that little washi and clip above the journaling, which I think is a cute detail. For finishing touches, I am putting some of the enamel dots. I have 2. Some came in the memory keeping pocket kit, some came in the memory keeping traveler's notebook kit. As far as my strategy for placing the enamel dots, I'm placing some where they can sort of bring attention to her face, or where there's overlapping corners. I also have some that tuck under, like above, that take note, and they're just nestled within the clustering of all the little ephemera. I'm going to slow down so that you can see the layout details in real time. And I really love how this one came out. It's so her, and I showed it to her and she was just like amazed. Anyway, here are the still photos. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm hoping to ramp up on the process videos again. Super busy over here with trying to run a Etsy shop, but I do want to bring you some layouts that use some of my products as well as some of the design team stuff that I do. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. I love comments too, and any questions you have. Tell me if you want to see a demo on how to use the Instax printer. If you're new to my channel, hit that subscribe button so you can get notified next time I do process video or that demo. And don't forget to check the links below to lots of the products that I use in this video. Thanks for joining me, everyone. I will see you here next time.